In 1947, a Bedouin shepherd wandering the cliffs near the Dead Sea tossed a stone into a narrow cave opening. He expected the sound of a rock hitting dirt, but heard the distinct, sharp ring of shattering pottery. Inside the cave sat a collection of these tan ceramic jars. They contained a cache of ancient manuscripts that would eventually force a total reassessment of the origins of Western religion. Tucked away in the darkness for 2 millennia, these scrolls remained tightly wrapped, their parchment and papyrus shielded from the air by the desert's intense heat. It raises a haunting historical question. Why would a community hide their entire library in such a desolate place, only to never return for it? The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls reveals the complete history of a forgotten sect, detailing their radical withdrawal from society and the desperate measures they took to ensure their ideas survived. During the 2nd century BCE, the political and religious atmosphere in Jerusalem was fracturing. Many devout believers began to view the Second Temple as a place of terminal corruption and greed. Among these radical dissenters were the Essenes, a reclusive Jewish sect that chose to abandon mainstream civilization entirely. They moved into the wilderness, establishing this settlement at Qumran. In this desolate valley, they built a self-sufficient monastic society governed by rigid discipline and communal living. To join, members surrendered all personal property. They spent their lives in prayer and study, referring to themselves as the Sons of Light, a group they believed was uniquely chosen to preserve God's law. Their migration to the desert was a calculated move to build a society that could exist independently of a world they believed was soon to pass away. At its height, Qumran functioned as a massive center for textual production. These scholars worked under the glow of oil lamps, driven by a frantic need to document their beliefs. They produced copies of foundational works like the Book of Isaiah, demonstrating an obsession with precision that preserved these texts for 1,000 years longer than any other known manuscript. Beyond the standard scriptures, they authored texts detailing a secret history of giants and fallen angels, all leading toward a prophesied 40-year war between the forces of good and evil. They even used metal to protect their most sensitive information. This is the Copper Scroll, a literal inventory of hidden gold and silver, etched into metal to ensure the location survived even if the community did not. Every word they wrote was fueled by the conviction that they were living in the final days of history, preparing for a coming world that only they would inherit. In 66 CE, the war the Essenes had long predicted finally arrived, but it took a form they hadn't expected. The actual threat was the Roman war machine. This tactical map illustrates the massive scale of the legions descending on Judea to crush a local revolt. The Essenes believed that divine intervention would shield them from this advance. They remained in their settlement, trusting their spiritual purity to withstand a military power that was systematically eliminating all resistance in the region. Titus, the son of the emperor, was moving his legions toward Jerusalem. His objective was the total destruction of the Jewish resistance, and Qumran sat directly in the path of his advance. The community's spiritual confidence was about to meet the physical reality of Roman iron. Jerusalem fell in 70 CE. The Romans razed the Second Temple and carried off its treasures, turning their attention toward the Dead Sea. As the legions approached, the Essenes performed a final, desperate act of preservation. They carried their library into these cliffside caves, sealing the scrolls in clay jars to hide them from the coming fire. The Roman assault was total. They burned Qumran to the ground and slaughtered the inhabitants, effectively erasing the Essene community from history for the next 2,000 years. However, the scrolls they died to protect survived. Their rediscovery pushed the written history of the Hebrew Bible back by a millennium, providing an unparalleled look at the development of modern scripture. Today, researchers use multispectral imaging and DNA analysis to recover text that is invisible to the naked eye, literally reading the words of a people who were silenced 20 centuries ago. In the long view of history, the Romans destroyed the community, but the library the Essenes died to hide became immortal. Who really won the war?